my hat on or off, or doesn't?
Well, it's up to you.
All right,
It's up to you what you prefer.
We're,
Why don't you take
we're
it off,
rolling.
Lloyd?
Okay.
Okay.
This is an interview at the New Scotland Historical Society, 24th of September 2007, approximately 3 p.m. Interviewers are Mike Russert and Wayne Clark. Could you give me your full name, date of birth, and place of birth, please?
My name is Lloyd Goggin. I was born in Cairo in Greene County, December 15th, 1928.
Okay. What was your educational background prior to going into service?
I was a high school graduate from Cairo, now Cairo, Durham.
All right. Do you remember where you were when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Yes, I do. I was up in a bedroom at my aunt's house listening to a Giants football game on the radio. No TV back then.
Right.
And they interrupted the programming and announced about Pearl Harbor.
Now, you were pretty young. How do you remember what you thought of this, your feelings at all? Or?
Well, you know, we knew it was coming one way or another, and of course I was very young at the time, about 13,
Yeah.
14, so it impacted me much as it would a young child. You know, I wasn't really concerned about the service or, you know, what I would have to contribute, although we did contribute a lot.
Yes, yes. Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I enlisted.
Why did you decide to enlist?
Well, I graduated from high school at age 16, and I didn't have the means to go to college, so I went back to school to get me off the street until I was 17. And I turned 17 on a Saturday, December 15th, 1945, and I went up to Albany the following Monday, enlisted, took the physical, was on a train that night for Great Lakes.
Now you were only 17. Your parents
17 years old.
Parents
and 2
sent me
days.
for you?
I don't know whether they did or not. I don't remember. I only had a mother. My father was deceased.
Okay.
I don't think she signed. Maybe one of the relatives did.
Now you went into the Navy. Why did you make that selection?
Well, because I wanted, you know, I heard about the Navy, these guys going out with a girl in their report and so on and so forth, and I wanted the adventure, and of course back then, you know, you're almost disappointed the war ended and you missed the show, you know, and so I sat there patiently waiting till I was 17, and then I went into the Navy to, you know, to start getting a base for my life.
Where did you go for your basic?
I went to the Great Lakes training station.
Okay. How long were you there?
I was there from, probably, we had a very indeterminate time we were going to be there because the war had just ended. And I think I was there about 6 weeks. And then I went to electrician school there at Great Lakes.
Had that been your first time away from home?
Yes, it was. And it was pretty, it was just before Christmas. And I remember having to help peel 800 pounds of potatoes. And I had hung my pea coat up there, and my wallet was stolen. So it wasn't a very happy Merry Christmas.
Welcome to the Navy.
Right.
Do you remember hearing about the death of President Roosevelt?
Oh, yes.
What were your reactions on that?
Well, you know, first of all, at school, we all were moved down to the church for church service on the death of the president. And the reaction was that, you know, he was well loved by the people in the country, and we never heard of this other guy, this Truman. But the reaction was that, you know, sad that we're in a battle, and here we lose our leader is what it amounted to. And so I had the reaction you would have. You felt really bad.
Okay. How long was your electrician school?
Well, that was about 16 weeks.
And where did you go from there?
Well, this is an interesting story. I applied for small craft new construction, and I wanted to get on Higgins boats or destroyer escorts, some of those things that, you know, really chug through the water. And I got my orders to the USS Reina Mercedes, which was a station ship at Annapolis, Maryland. And I shook my head and wondered, what am I doing? What Navy am I in here? But I did go to that, and I served a 2-year period there at Annapolis as ship's company, and then was discharged because my enlistment was a 2-year enlistment.
What was your duties there at Annapolis?
I was an electrician serving the sailing craft that they had there. They had sailcraft and training boats for the midshipmen, and my duty as an electrician was carrying batteries out to these sailcraft for lights, night lights, or at night going out and servicing them. You know, so it was interesting, but it was a long life in small craft, new construction.
Okay, so when were you discharged?
In October of '47.
Okay. Now you then went into the Air Force. Did you go in right
Well,
away?
I had a 1-year period before I went in the Air Force. I belonged to the operating engineers, and I like to say I built the VA hospital up here. I worked on a crane when I was being built, and then it got to be a little bit cold up here in December of 48, and I said, I can't do this. So in January, I re-enlisted in the Navy.
And that would be 1950 then?
49, January 49, yeah.
Did you go in at the same rank you were when you...
Yeah, which wasn't much rank, but I went in at the same, yeah.
Now, why did you pick the Air Force this time?
Well, no, this was still the Navy.
Oh,
I went back in the Navy.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yeah, and I was assigned to a new cruiser under construction that was being built, and I served on that for a couple of years, and then
This was the Newport News?
Newport News.
Yeah.
Went to the electronics school, and then was transferred to Boston to the CIC Team Training Center out there.
Now, what is that?
It's a training center for radar operators, and that's where my life took a turn. That's when I met my wife, and we got married while I was out there.
Okay. Now,
I was discharged in 1954, well, and then as a reserve, I joined and was a station keeper at the Naval Training Center in Scotia, New York. I was on active duty then, and I put a year in there, and that's when I decided the Navy wasn't really the right place because first of all, I was seasick most of the time, and the other thing I considered, there was going to be a lot of traveling, so. I opted to just make a swap and went in the Air Force.
and what was that?
That was in 1945, I'd say. Or not 45, 55. Yeah. Lost 10 years there almost.
Now, did you have to start all over again with the training?
No, but I had to. I didn't have to take basic training, but I took a reduction in rank to go in the Air Force. And I was assigned to the 8th Air Force, and it really wasn't my area of expertise. So it took me a year, and I finally got a transfer into my own field. And then basically I did have to start over as an apprentice and work my way back up.
Okay. Where did they station you in the Air Force?
I went to the AC and Aircraft and Warning radar station in Brunswick, Maine, as a radar technician then, which was rightfully what I was supposed to be. And I spent about 3 years there.
Now, what were your duties there?
Well, I was a crew chief on a radar maintenance team. We ran the warning radar 724, and so we had to have maintenance people there all the time. And that was my duty. I was in charge of maintenance there. And my wife was with me at the time. We lived in Portland, and we lived a fairly normal life, really. I mean, it was not too exciting.
Was it a very secure base? It must have...
Yeah, it was the Brunswick Naval Air Station, Naval Air Station, but we were a small detachment of radar people on the base. And that was a kind of a routine assignment there, for the 3 years we were there. Nothing significant to it.
Now, that was part of our early warning defense system
Yeah,
at the time?
right. It, later to become known as SAGE, the SAGE system. And, well, from there, I knew I had to go overseas, so I volunteered for overseas duty on the Texas Towers. And I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, but there were 3 offshore radar platforms that the Air Force managed off of Long Island and Cape Cod. And I was assigned to Texas Tower 4. And I don't know if you know the story or not, but we had to spend a total time of 365 days on tower, and we rotated between the tower and Otis Air Force Base. It was really like 2 crews. So, we spent so many days on, so many days off.
Now, where was your tower?
Our tower was about 80 miles south of Long Island, off the Jersey coast. Now, the interesting thing about this one is there was a flaw in the construction and transporting it to the site, and damaged the tower. And it remained in a damaged condition for the life of the tower.
Did they know it was damaged?
Yes, they did. We had people working on it almost constantly, divers and welders.
Now, how was it put in place?
A new method they called a cuss tip-up method. They sent the 3 legs out in the water in a horizontal position. They filled them and raised the 3 legs up, then vertical, and then they floated the platform into it and raised the platform up. And that's when the damage occurred, during the transportation of it out. The tower always had kind of a weakness to it. They used to call it old shaky, because it would, especially in stormy weather, it would shake and vibrate. And it was constantly going under inspection. And I got off the tower in...
How many men were on this tower?
There were around 80 men on it.
Now, you were there for a whole year?
For a total of 365 days over a course of maybe 18 months.
Oh, okay.
And as I said, we did have our rotation back to Otis and our shore time. But I left the tower in June of 1959. And they had a storm in January of 1960, and the tower collapsed. They had a loss of 28 lives on it. There were 14 Air Force support people on it. They had evacuated the operating personnel, the radar people and the medics and people like that. They just had cooks and operating people, and 14 construction people were on it. And they were all lost in the tower when it collapsed. And at that time, I had been transferred to a radar site in Montauk, Long Island. So I had been there about 6 months when this happened. But it's really quite a traumatic experience, because we had concerns all the time around the tower that, it just wasn't right. They call it old shaky. And but anyway, that's another experience, and this is...
What'd they do with the rest of the towers?
Well, they ultimately disassembled and brought them in. And I guess the tower that I was on remains there yet, underwater. I don't know. I don't really know. But anyway, I served at Montauk for about 4 years, as in the same capacity I was at Brunswick, as a radar technician at a warning radar site. And at this time I had about 17 years service, and most of my service had been right on the East Coast here, ironically. And at this point, 1964, I got orders to become a missile guidance technician at Vandenberg Air Force Base. The duties were on Johnson Island as a guidance missile technician, highly classified project. We were home based at Vandenberg, although we spent most of the time at Johnson Island. We were an active air defense command unit, and it was highly classified at the time. But now you can read about it on the internet. It's been it's been brought out what we were doing there, and I participated in a few live launches, combat launches, and that was of course an interesting experience. But I had to retrain from the beginning there up too, because I trained from a guidance or a warning radar technician to a guidance radar technician. Mm-hmm. So we spent 3 years at that. I put a total of over a year on Johnson Island. There were different crews that would go out at different times.
Now, what kind of site do they have on this? You said there's an internet site?
Well, there's information on the internet site about this station. Okay. It's under the 10th Aerospace Defense Squadron, is what we were assigned to. Mm-hmm. And you can go on the internet and find out everything we did or didn't do. It's nice about the internet that they keep the world posted on what some of these activities are, which you probably would never ever hear about under normal circumstances. Yeah. So anyway, by this time I had my 20 years of service in, and the Vietnam War was raging, and to be perfectly frank, I'm a peacetime soldier, and so I put in for my retirement, and with it at the end of 20 years. Mm-hmm.
Now, was your wife able to go with you most of the time?
Most of the time, except when I were on the tower and out at the island. But she followed me. In other words, she went to Otis Air Force Base, and she went to Vanderbilt Airport, Vandenberg Air Force Station, and she was with me. But of course, there were separations there. That's
Now, when you were on this tower, where did you live? Where did she live?
She lived at in Falmouth, Mass, right near Otis.
Oh, okay.
And then she moved back to my previous station where she knew people, and we felt more comfortable up at Maine. But so I'd come in every 30, 45 days, and we'd have 15 days, 20 days, and then back out of the tower again. And we flew to the tower on the banana type helicopter, and they when the weather was decent, which it never was. So when the weather wasn't any good, we'd have to go on a little AKL out to the tower. It's a supply ship, and so I got more sea time then than I did in the Navy, really, between that and Johnson Island. Yeah. So it's been an interesting experience. As I say, I'm a lot more loaded in good conduct medals than I am in war sites, but it was a good experience. And,
were you ever able to use the GI Bill?
The ironic part of it is I had the full benefits of the GI Bill when I was 18 years old, but I didn't use them, and consequently I just went back in the service. But I was eligible for all of them, but never took advantage of it, which may be all right too. I was never a student, I guess you'd say, and I feel I've made good choices. That's the service was very good to me, and still are. And,
what rank were you when you got out?
I was an E7, a technical sergeant, and that's what I was when I got out of the Navy, and it took me that long to reestablish myself, but things were starting to toughen up then, in rank-wise, and so I was satisfied. I've got my just dues.
Now, the skills you learned in the Navy, were you able to carry them out?
Oh, yeah. To go back to my high school days, I was an electrician. I worked for an electrician in Cairo when I was 16 years old. and which today would be unheard of.
Mhm.
But I worked for him all of one summer, and because of that, I got into the electrical training and then into the communications, electronics communications.
Mhm.
And when I retired, I went to work for New York Telephone Company, and they were very good to me, and I had a nice, good position with them. And it was related to the communication and electronic skills I had in the service that I got that particular job. So yeah, it was worthwhile.
Were you able to, did you join a service organizations or anything after your time in service?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I've given thought to it a lot of times since I should have, but I never did. I never joined the Legion or any other organization.
Did you ever stay in contact with anyone that was in service with you?
Not really, no, because you meet so many people, and even civilians that I met when I was in the service, which was quite a few. You go back to see them, and it's a different world.
Yes.
Things have changed, you've changed, they've changed, and so no, we never really did stay in contact that much with anyone. I never stayed too much in contact with the service. In other words, I did take advantage of some of the things, but we'd go to Stewart Air Force Base for groceries. Then you find out, it's cost you more to drive down to Stewart than it was to shop at Price Chopper. So we never really were right near a base, so I never had the opportunity to really stay affiliated with the services that much. So,
how do you think your time in the service may have affected or changed your life?
Well, of course, it gave me a basis for life. As I say, I was 16 years old, and 17 in 2 days. I had no formal training, no background, I often look back at it, and I think to myself, here I am, I'm 17 years old, the world is out there, how am I ever going to cope with it, And the service took care of that for me. I mean, they gave me a home, they gave me clothes, they gave me food, and they gave me a life, a career. So, I mean, it didn't only affect my life, it was my life, really, at the time. So.
Now, did you bring any photographs with you?
I just brought my discharge, my separation paper.
I know you sent us these, or we have these.
Yeah.
Maybe Bob did.
That's the fella I met.
Okay.
Yeah,
If you hold this up, Wayne can focus in on them. When was the first? Do you remember when the first picture was taken?
Oh boy, that had to be.
That was at Aunt Florence's.
That had to be taken in probably about 1951 or so.
And the bottom one?
The bottom one was probably about 1953. If you notice, I've changed since then.
Yes.
I didn't know what he would have.
I think he was about 21 in that bottom picture.
Yeah.
21.
No, I just.
No, these are. Okay. How about these?
Well, I think this time my vision is failing me. I don't drive anymore, but I think this is when I was at work at the guidance radar for the missile guidance, and there were three of us at a console. We had height and elevation and range, for guidance, and so three of us operated the various functions for that. Of course, it was all computerized at that time anyway. Basically, just sit and occupy a seat.
So, about what years were these? Then?
That would have been about 1966, 67. Yeah, 66. I'm
66
sure.
because you retired in 67.
Yeah, that's right.
66, but you were out there.
All right.
And if he hadn't joined the Navy, he never would have met me.
That's right.
Okay, that's right. Okay, are there any stories or little incidents that you remember that you might?
Well, most of my stories were right in the story. I mean, being assigned to the oldest ship in the United States Navy during World War II. and I've got information for Bob on that.
There's a picture
And
of that.
being on the Texas Towers,
Now, what, is that the,
that's the Reina Mercedes.
these Mercedes, oh, okay.
And being on the Texas Towers and that experience, and retraining to become a missile guidance technician, and being, I have a certificate from the Air Force, and I have been designated as a missile guidance technician, or as I refer to it, as a rocket scientist, to my daughter.
Now, when was that ship built?
It was built in 1897 in Spain.
Mhm.
That again came off the internet, and it gives the whole story on it. And it was sunk in Santiago Harbor during the Spanish-American War by Admiral Farragut and two of the battleships, the U.S. battleships, and they raised it from Santiago, and they brought it up to Annapolis, Maryland, where it was a station ship for about 800 enlisted men to live on. And in 1941, they decided it wasn't fit to live on, so they bought land across the river in Severn River, and they established the Severn River Naval Command, which I was assigned to. In other words, you were assigned to the Reina Mercedes and detached to the Severn River Naval Command. But they decommissioned this. But it's interesting because it was an active ship. In other words, it was a commissioned ship, and it was the oldest commissioned ship to serve in the United States Navy during World War II. And it was referred to as extremely fast. It was fast to the pier at Annapolis, Maryland, and never moved.
Now, do you know what eventually happened to it?
I think it's in the story. It was taken to one of the shipyards and disassembled. And, I think around 1953 or 57, somewhere through there. But it was a shocker when I got my orders to go to that, and I read the story on it.
Okay, well, thank you very much for the interview.
Well, thank you, and I hope it's some information to you.
There was.
And Bob, I want to leave.